Hello everyone, today is 5th of May, now it's 20 past 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. Although before I start, first of all, let me congratulate all Orthodox Christians with Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. Jesus Voskres. That's how we greet each other when we see each other on Easter. And yes, that's been said, let me also make an announcement that today, 9 o'clock Moscow time, this evening I will have a live stream, traditional Sunday live stream, and I hope you will find time to join the conversation. For this moment, I received just one question through Boosty from a member of our community. Of course, I will start Q&A part of their live stream with this question. Although during the day, if I will receive more questions through Boosty, PayPal, or Patreon, of course, I will add those questions also. And well, that's been said, let's go through some news now. And first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. And there is plenty of changes, by the way, plenty of important developments on a line of contact. I will start with the Zaporozhye sector. Russian forces advancing even further in Orekho-Bridgehead direction, and there are several channels are reporting about Russian progress in Rabotina area, in between the fields between Rabotina and Verbova. Also, by the way, Russian forces further improving their positions in Staromayorskaya Urozhaynaya direction on Vremyevsky salient, on South Donetsk sector of the front line. Also, Russian forces conducting offensive operations, local scale offensive operations in between Novomikhailivka and Uglidar in the fields, and one may get a sense that Russian forces are conducting or preparing ground for encircling Uglidar, which is theoretically possible, but although right now, of course, it's little early to call, but Russian forces are quite active and advancing, as I said, in the fields between Uglidar and Novomikhailivka. When it comes to southern flank of Donetsk sector, major news, major update is that Russian forces established control over the industrial zone in Krasnogorovka settlement. And yesterday on my Telegram channel, I shared videos when Russian forces were putting rising Russian flag on one of the high-rise industrial building, on one of the factories in this area. And well, even military summary yesterday stated that Russian forces are now in control of most important strategically or militarily speaking areas of the Krasnogorovka, and Kiev region forces will find it extremely difficult to hold on to their positions because Russia is controlling high-rise buildings, high ground, basically, which is, of course, has a huge importance on the battlefield. Many experts are predicting now that probably Russian forces will be able to establish full control over the Krasnogorovka in fairly short time, and Kiev region forces probably already start withdrawing their troops from Krasnogorovka, because positions that they have right now are no longer defendable because of the Russian progress in industrial area of the town. Also, by the way, significant updates in Avdiivka direction. Russian forces established control over the Novoarkhangelskaya or Arkhangelskaya settlement. More videos are confirming information about Russian control of this settlement. And also, by the way, Russian forces, it's finally confirmed that Russian forces are in full control of Novokalinovo and Keramik. We also receive video confirmation of that. Several channels were doubting Russian control over these settlements on the northern flank of Avdiivka sector because There was no video confirmation or photo confirmation of Russian control, but yesterday I shared on my Telegram channel a number of videos that were confirming Russian presence and control, basically Russian control over these settlements. So as you can see, Russian bridgehead in Avdiivka sector is becoming quite a stronghold, let's say, quite bigger. Well, question is now in which direction we should expect further Russian advances. Although, of course, Russian forces probably need to take at least for a couple of days some operational pause to regroup, rearmed, reinforced. Because advances on Avdiivka direction in last couple of weeks were very rapid. I don't think anybody expected these fast advances of Russian armed forces. And by the way, yesterday in Berdichi area, not far away from this settlement, Russian forces destroyed yet another Abrams tank. And I share a video of that also on my Telegram channel. Many of you probably see. And other channels also reported about it, and I was a little surprised because earlier, probably many of you remember that earlier there was reports, including in Western media, that Washington basically demanded from Kyiv regime to withdraw Abrams tanks from the line of contact, but because 47th Brigade is on a zero line still, that's the equipment that they have, Bradleys and Abrams tanks. And yesterday video started circulating on internet of destruction exactly of one Abrams and one Bradley. These two vehicles were moving as a pair close to zero line. Russian military intelligence find their location, and then it was just a matter of technique, and both vehicles were taken out. So yes, significant progress of Russian armed forces in Avdiivka sector, and more military experts, even in West, by the way, are acknowledging that Kyiv regime is unable to hold on to their positions to stabilize situation on Avdiivka sector, and initiative is completely in the Russian hands, completely. When it comes to northern flank of Donetsk sector, main hotspot is of course Chisov Yar, and yesterday we received information that Russian forces finally cut all supply and support lines of Ukrainian forces that are trapped in Canal district of the Chisov Yar, which is located on the eastern part of this irrigation channel. Of course, that will make situation for Ukrainian garrison in Canal district so much more difficult. This morning I even saw some videos of withdrawal some Ukrainian units from Chisov Yar, and this military personnel of Kyiv regime was quite happy to leave Chisov Yar alive. They were running away as fast as they can. And they were probably running away from western parts of Chisov Yar because they cannot withdraw from Canal district now this easy. And some channels yesterday started reporting about Russian advances inside the Canal district itself. Probably we need some photo and video confirmation for that. I still believe that it's too early to conduct the ground operation towards Chisov Yar because of the high concentration of Kyiv regime forces, which basically allows Russian long-range artillery, Russian Air Force to demilitarize Kyiv regime forces as much as possible. First, by striking points of concentration of Kyiv regime's military personnel and equipment, and only then ground operation should begin. That makes sense to me personally, and therefore maybe those channels were mistaken. Russian forces probably are conducting some reckoning force operations, which is normal stuff. But I would not call it a beginning of the ground operation inside the Chisov Yar itself. It's a little bit early, in my personal opinion. But let's see. By the way, same time, I'm quite sure Russian forces are conducting negotiations, or definitely trying at least, to conduct negotiations with the Ukrainian military personnel officers and persuade them to save the lives of their military personnel and lay down arms and surrender. And I expect big number of Kyiv regime's forces to surrender in Chisiv Yar. Initiative is of course in Russian hands, and Kyiv regime has no opportunity to regain initiative or achieve any even local scale success on any of the direction of the front line. I'm saying this for quite a while now, and I never been proved wrong. Initiative constantly in Russian hands all along the front line. And dear friends, also important news that Russian armed forces established control over the Katliarovka settlement on Kupiansk direction. A few days ago we received information about Russian control over the Kislevka settlement, which is located north side from the Katliarovka, and now Russian forces established control over the Katliarovka also. And if we zoom out, then this is the area that we are talking about, this where you can see this star icon, and this is Kupiansk itself, by the way. Kupiansk itself, on Kupiansk direction, main hotspots usually was Sinkovka, and battles for Sinkovka was quite heavy and long, very long, and it was quite logical that Russian forces will probably try to bypass this settlement, to conduct offensives towards Kupiansk from some other directions. And maybe we are observing now exactly that Russian forces shift attention from Sinkovka, which is located, I mean, Sinkovka is in, on one side it's a forestry, on the other side it's fields. Geolocation of this settlement is such that, and ground there, that it does makes extremely difficult to conduct operations there, military operations. It's going to be much easier to basically encircle this settlement and then force Kyiv regime forces to lay down arms and surrender. And possibly that's what exactly is going to happen. Russian forces shifted attention towards Kislevka, Katliarovka, and probably they will try now to close in to Kupiansk from the southeastern part. This is my reading of the situation. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, and we will see large-scale offensive, I mean, not large-scale, but local-scale offensive operations towards Sinkovka also in upcoming days. But in any ways, that's how I see the picture. So, two settlements on Kupiansk direction become under full Russian control in last couple of days. And this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. Quite interesting changes, although local scale changes, of course, but overall picture definitely highlights Russian advances and fact that initiative is totally in Russian hands. Let's continue with some other news now, and Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that, well, exactly what I just said, that Russian forces established control over their main stronghold of the Kyiv regime in Krasnogorovka, that industrial area. So I report about it. Also, by the way, Vzglyad newspaper is confirming information that this canal district of Chisiv Yar is basically cut off from the rest of the city, and supply and support lines for Ukrainian garrison in that canal district is under constant Russian fire control. TASS news agencies information about destroyed Abrams tank on Avdiivka sector of the Frontline. If you have not seen video of destruction of that tank, you can see it on my Telegram channel. Yesterday I shared that video. Also, by the way, important developments. RIA Novosti is reporting, and many other Russian media outlets, of course, that Russian Interior Ministry wanted list have been upgraded, and now on that wanted list you can see Zelenskyy and Poroshenko, former and current so-called presidents of the Ukraine, and also many other high-ranking officials. So Zelenskyy is in wanted list in Russia, and this is a big deal. This is a big deal because maybe something is beginning to change. Toward the end of the May, Zelensky's presidential term will expire, and therefore Moscow probably will no longer recognize him as a legitimate leader of a Kiev regime, and that's the first step towards this. Zelensky is on the wanted list in Russia, and this is a big deal. Kiev regime tried to downgrade this topic, but this is a big deal because if he is on the wanted list, then maybe if there was any guarantees from Moscow about safety and security of the Zelensky, and according to some reports there was such guarantees, then probably those guarantees will also expire at some point in near future. Let's continue. Lentaru is reporting that Ukrainian armed forces are reporting about a lack of engineers, and therefore Kiev regime forces are unable to deal with some mechanical issues, to deal to vehicles that have been damaged on the battlefield. So this overall logistical nightmare that Kiev regime is going through is becoming more and more worsening, basically on daily basis, which is quite understandable. After all, more than 200 different type of weapon systems have been transferred by NATO member states to Kiev regime, and I mean it is obvious that to maintain that much of equipment, to receive spare parts for that many different type of weapon systems, it will take, in certain cases, probably many months, and in some cases it would not be possible at all. Like in cases of Challenger 2 tanks, by the way. For example, when, according to latest reports that I remember, several Challengers, one Challenger was burned down on battlefield, and after that London demanded Challenger 2s to be withdrawn from zero line. But several Challengers were damaged also, and about 5 Challengers are experiencing some mechanical issues, are not ready, not combat ready, and for each of those Challengers, Kiev regime, whenever they were asking for spare parts, they were waiting for a month, and probably they're continuing to wait for spare parts to arrive in Kiev. And that's one example. And Kiev regime is operating with 200 different type of weapon systems. It is total nightmare, of course. Understandably so for the Kiev regime, what they were expecting. Anyways, it's a good news for Russia in any case. So I definitely don't feel sorry for Kiev regime if they are experiencing nightmares. It's all good. TASS news agency is reporting that head of defense ministry of Italy, by the way, Guido Crosetto, made a statement about yet another extreme steps from President of France, Macron, who once again threatened Russia with deployment of French troops. And even though probably more and more people find it extremely unpleasant to talk about Macron no more, or even difficult to take Macron seriously, head of Italy's defense ministry commented on this topic anyways, and said that he don't want to criticize Macron because he's a president of a friendly country to Italy, although he don't really understands what purpose have been served by these extreme statements from Macron that NATO troops will be deployed in Ukraine and so on. I mean, what purpose that kind of statements have? Because they definitely not playing positive role. They just are escalating situation even further. And Italy's defense ministry don't see this action reasonable. Understandably so, once again. There are definitely some people in the leadership of the Western collective West that opposing this extreme Russophobic steps of the governments of some NATO member states. And another example of that is Prime Minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico. So EU states MP reminds Macron that Ukraine is not in the NATO. So NATO has no justification to send troops to Ukraine because the country is not a member of the bloc. Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico has stated. His remarks followed French President Emmanuel Macron's interview with The Economist earlier this week, in which he again refused to rule out potential deployment of soldiers to Ukraine. The question of the deploying troops from the US-led bloc to Ukraine would arise if the Russians were to break through the front lines and if Kiev requested help from the US-led military alliance, Macron stated. So Fico reacted on this, and Fico told the Slovak parliament on Thursday that statements such as Macron's bring the world closer to World War III. Ukraine is not NATO member state. He reminded the French president, Macron does not speak for the whole bloc, and his words about the possible deployment of troops to Ukraine are no one else's business but France. The Prime Minister added. So Slovakia is definitely out of this madness. Current government of Slovakia don't want to have anything with this craziness that is going on among leadership of quite a number of NATO member states, including leadership of France. Understandably, good for Slovakia, by the way, good for Slovakia, that they have adequate leadership. At this point, by the way, when country has, in collective West, when country has a more or less adequate leadership, by the way, that's already something to be celebrated. That's how crazy political, military leadership has become in majority of the countries in the collective West, and I guess many of you will probably agree with me. Unbelievable, man. Interfax is reporting that, well, as I just said, by the way, while Defense Minister of Italy is critical of this escalatory rhetoric, while Prime Minister of Slovakia on the same page and don't see adequate reasons to go this crazy as Macron does. Prime Minister of Estonia, by the way, Kaja Kallas, well, she is, thinks differently, and she is in full support. She is in full support of French president, and I guess Estonia is ready to deploy all its 12 troops to battlefield, or 15 troops. How many troops they have in Estonia? So yes, Macron has Estonia's support. Okay. This Kaja Kallas, by the way, probably thinks that she's some kind of modern Jeanne d'Arc. Yeah. Okay. TASS news agency is reporting that Biden's advisor in national security, Jake Sullivan, stated that, well, current military aid for Kiev regime will not really change much situation on the line of contact. So Washington is acknowledging that this 61 billion aid package basically was, probably last big paycheck for military-industrial complex, and that's all. Although, to somehow justify this yet another instance of robbing U.S. taxpayers, Sullivan is saying that yes, this year, I mean, this current military aid may not influence the situation on line of contact, but it will allow Zelensky's regime to conduct counteroffensive next year in 2025. Okay, man, and people are listening this crap and taking this crap seriously, or what is going on here? I don't know. I don't know. This is, I mean, too low level. I mean, this is extremely low level, and therefore, as I said, man, these people cannot be taken seriously, and it is extremely sad and dangerous for humanity that these kind of idiots are in charge, man. These kind of intellectual bankrupts and disgraceful individuals basically are in charge in majority countries in the collective West, including in the nuclear powerhouse as US. I mean, that's extremely dangerous for humanity. RBK news agency is reporting that, well, Russian Foreign Ministry commented on the largest NATO exercises, military exercises on Russian borders, largest since the Cold War, by the way, for the last 40 years, basically. And the Russian Foreign Ministry stated that these large-scale exercises are clearly preparation for a conflict with Russia, direct conflict with Russia. That was stated by official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova. Well, any military exercises are preparation for something. Because NATO see Russia as an enemy, of course, they are preparing for a war with Russia. It's logical. It's just what it is. Although, by the way, I have maybe a little bit, and I explain this my reading of the situation. I may have a little bit different understanding of what is going on, because I believe these large-scale military exercises that NATO is conducting for the last several weeks now, and will continue for next several weeks. This is the preparation of the NATO troops for rapid deployment of them into the Western Ukraine. NATO is basically preparing its troops to be deployed in the Western Ukraine. That's what is going on, in my personal opinion. I still don't believe that there is a high risk of direct confrontation, full-scale confrontation between Russia and NATO. Probably there is a risk of that, but just I mean, I don't want to give percentages, but I'm quite sure risk of direct full-scale confrontation is quite low, and therefore I think these current military exercises that NATO is conducting is definitely attempt to prepare their forces to conduct rapid advances and rapid deployment into Western Ukraine. When Kiev regime will, when Ukraine will finally undergo full-scale disintegration and Kiev regime will sign capitulation, therefore, I don't see much danger in those exercises. Western Ukraine only after a Second World War become part of Ukraine, and therefore many people, by the way, even in Ukraine don't see Western Ukraine as a part of it. Western Ukraine used to be part of other countries, Poland, Hungary, at some point Czechoslovakia and Romania. And therefore, if not NATO will establish control over the Western Ukraine, I don't think many people will care about it here in Russia. Russia will establish control over the rest of the Ukraine, which used to be part of Russia. From Kharkov region to Odessa for sure, although I think Russian forces will establish control over the Kiev and their surrounding areas also, because Kiev is also a Russian city, and there will be no more Ukraine on the political map. That's my understanding of the situation, although of course there is a slight chance that Ukraine as a landlocked quasi-state will still remain on the political map if Moscow will, for whatever reason, agrees on such a development. But yes, once again, I did not see these NATO exercises as a big threat. All they do is preparing themselves to be deployed in the Western Ukraine. And if they will stay in Western Ukraine, okay, some skirmishes between Russian and NATO forces may take place, but local scale skirmishes that will not provoke a full-scale war between the sides. But if NATO troops then move out of Western Ukraine, well, that's a whole different story. In that case, direct confrontation will be inevitable. But I'm quite sure that they will stay in Western Ukraine. They're not gonna, risk global nuclear exchange. I don't think so. So yes, let's continue now with some other news. And RT is reporting, by the way, that Trump will force NATO members to hike military spendings by 50%, according to Telegraph. Donald Trump is in plans to push the NATO members to ramp up defense spendings from 2% to 3% of the GDP if he is re-elected in November, the Telegraph reported on Friday, citing sources close to former US president. And Trump can do this. Trump, when he was in office, was pressuring NATO member states quite actively to increase spendings on defense. And I would not be surprised at all if he will continue very same policies. And some NATO member states, by the way, are finding it hard to meet 2% threshold. And how are they going to meet 3%? I don't know. But Washington is in charge, isn't it? And Washington can force EU member states to do whatever Washington wants. Most of the times, at least. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting, and dear friends, I'm quite sure this ramp up in military production, or attempt at least, this increase on military spendings, this is not due to confrontation with Russia. I don't think Western world is ruling class of the Western world really preparing West for a military conflict with Russia. They are waging proxy war, and that's as far as they will go in conflict with Russia. But main reason why they are ramping up military production, why they are militarizing collective West, is to combat China, because Western ruling class see as its main adversary and main enemy China, for many reasons. And first of all, because of the Chinese economical power. And with economical strength, of course, political influence is coming in, military influence, and therefore one can understand why collective West, or ruling class of the collective West, is approaching China with this hostility and see China as an enemy. They are not used to operate with mutual respect in this world. They were always dominating, and seems like they cannot change. Instead of approaching China and other global powers with respect and diplomacy, and try to work out some issues on the negotiation table, no, Western ruling class, they are escalating straight away, because that's the only way they know how to operate for decades and centuries, by the way. Take a look at the last 3 to 5 centuries. That's the only way this Western ruling class, these generational clans or families were operating. That's the only way they know how to do things. And they will fail eventually. Let's hope so, because if they will attack China, they may easily provoke Third World War, by the way. And that will be the end of everything. So let's hope it will not go down this way. Anyways, let's continue. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Boeing, US giant, is experiencing additional issues now in terms of spare parts, because of some companies that were delivering parts to Boeing left Russia due to Western sanctions. So if Boeing didn't already had enough problems and issues, well, that's another one, by the way. And Airbus act a little differently, clever way, and Airbus received permissions, by the way. I don't know how they manage it, but they receive permissions to import spare parts from Russia, import some details for their aircrafts from Russia, especially titanium details, by the way, because Russia is big in titanium production, like Canada. And Airbus is, and Boeing also, by the way, they were heavily relying on Russian, on cooperation with the Russian companies. And Boeing seems like lost these ties, and Airbus maintained these ties because they act cleverly. Probably they have a clever, better management. That's all, by the way, because Boeing is in deep trouble. Mainly because of the creepy management, unprofessional management that they have. And I will end this video, by the way, on this interesting news that BRICS should be ready for dollar collapse, according to Russian representative in International Monetary Fund. The BRICS group of the nations could offer an alternative currency in the event of collapse of the dollar and the international monetary system, according to Russia's executive director at the International Monetary Fund, Alexei Mozin. In an interview with the RIA Novosti published on Friday, the expert noted that the shortcomings of the current financial system are becoming more apparent and that many publications have started to mention BRICS in the context of the fact that this association can offer alternative. Mozin explained that it is possible for the economic blocs member countries to create a currency that would be built on a basket of currencies of the five original member countries, which would include the Chinese yuan, Indian rupee, Russian ruble, Brazilian real, and South African rand. Such a proposal is being discussed in the event of the collapse of the dollar and the international monetary system. It will be necessary to turn the side BRICS accounting into a real currency backed by exchange goods, the director told their outlet. Earlier this year, during the meeting of the BRICS finance ministers and heads of the central banks, representatives of its member states expressed support for moving away from the dollar and for trading in national currencies instead. So, interesting, by the way, interesting. This person is working in International Monetary Fund. He's a Russian representative in this mainly Western-controlled institution, and therefore he is a little cautious. I can understand this, but well, I'm not just sure, but I'm not just sure that BRICS can provide world with alternative financial and banking system and alternative reserve currency. I demand basically that BRICS should do this as fast as possible, because it's just so necessary for this world, man. It's just so necessary. So BRICS should do it. They can and they should do it as fast as possible. And I hope during the summit in Kazan this year, here in Russia, during the BRICS summit, hopefully we will hear we will receive some information from BRICS about steps that have been taken to create this alternative financial and banking system and alternative currency. It's just so necessary, by the way. You don't have to be expert in finances to understand this, because after all, let's say I want to buy microphone. I want to buy microphone that are produced in US. One of the US companies are producing high quality microphones for a good price, and I want to buy it. I cannot. By my card, I can't. So I have to ask my friends in Georgia, for example, my relatives, and they will buy it for me. They will receive it and then send it to me. This is not okay. This is not okay, by the way. And this is clear example that Western financial and banking system have been weaponized against me also. Against everybody, basically. Against me, against that company in US. Also, that losing money because I'm unable, for example, to purchase directly goods from that company, US company or European company or any other company anywhere. So it is what it is, man. It's just too obvious. You don't have to be expert in finances to realize that alternative is needed, and hopefully BRICS will do this soon. Dollar process of de-dollarization is unstoppable anyways, and same can be said about euro and the pound. But yet again, who is to blame? Western ruling class, isn't it? They weaponized their currencies and their financial and banking systems. That's all. Anyways, by the way, I will end this update on this information. Still quite long. I was hoping to make like 30-35 minutes update, but it's already 40 minutes. But hopefully you will find this update informative, interesting, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. This is the only way we can influence algorithm to reach wider audience, and for very same reason, if you can please share link to my videos or my channels with your friends on any of the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, if you think this channel is interesting, useful, informative, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, on which, by the way, I have some extra content on regular basis. I'm trying to make my Patreon page as interesting as possible. That's my thank to members of our community that are subscribing to my Patreon and providing me with financial support to continue this work. So, and I will definitely try to make Patreon page even more interesting. I'm working on it, and yes, all the links under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. Have a great day. Once again, happy Easter to all the Orthodox Christians. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye for now.